Greetings, my fellow lovers, fathers, and LLP podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Swamp in South Florida, and today's date, August 2nd, 2018. So let us begin. Absolutely. Woo, man. I'm just hanging out here, heart of downtown Fort Lauderdale. Warm. We'll have a good little breeze for August, which is real nice. It's going to be 90 degrees and all that. However, as long as they got that wind kicking, it's not as bad. Yeah, I checked this one place out called City Park Cafe Bistro. Little mom and pop facility located at the shops at City Park, 140 Southeast 1st Street in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And they do have a website, cityparkcafe.com, or give them a call at 954-763-2840. Good breakfast, coffee, just a little chilling. But they're mainly open from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. And that's how it is downtown. It's just the demand. If the demand's not there certain weekends, they don't open. So, hey, check them out. Pretty cool. Nice little setup. They do have cream, and they do have they do smoothies like berry carrot dream, carrot kale shot, tropical green, detox tropical green, and totally green. So it's interesting. Ginger root. Hey, it's good for fighting cancer too, believe it or not. And so take care of your health there out there, my friends. Don't go too crazy. All the garbage mainstream gonna shove down our throats. All right. Just doing a little browsing from last night and all that. So I decided to take the initiative on putting a few of these out. And I got to download my show, my last episode, Medicare for All. Don't believe the hype. Government, give me health care. Government, I'll pull down my pants and get respect. Government, tread on me. That's what it means by Medicare for All. And those so-called progressives become stagnant at times because they're doing things half-assed backwards without you knowing it. Exactly. So that's why we got to learn, have our own little health system, how to take care of our own bodies instead of having a doctor tell you what to consume. I'm talking about in the big pharmaceutical perspective. I'm not going to condemn doctors as a whole, but you have a lot of them are owned by the big pharma, just like the people in Washington, D.C. Look, everyone talking about Donald Trump being a moron, but look, the people they voted are not that sharp. But I hate that guy. If he's gone, I'm free. Yay! I get screwed by someone else, even people I love. Very one-dimensional indeed. So, I've been I check my emails frequently on the current events, and there was a claim that it may be a claim by Tom Hannigan. Glenn Kennedy reports this about possibly Jeff Sessions maybe getting indicted for high treason, including Robert Mueller. It is about Robert Mueller because they talk about he was involved in the 9/11 cover-up, which is true because even the Florida Bulldog.org, Florida Bulldog, and I know I said that twice and mumble at the same time. Forgive me on that. It's talking about a report that had Mueller had knowledge about the Sarasota probe on September 11th. So all you folks out there that hate Trump so much, you think Robert Mueller's a great guy, you're being duped, punked, and played. All right? Prove me wrong if you dare. I know many of you won't. And I'm not saying I'm better than you as well. Talk about that, and talk about Tommy Robinson. They claim he is a Zionist, and has merit too. I've seen some of the videos. Of course, the U.S. Appeal Court rules on federal holding, so cities are happy about that. But all the Trumpsters and Trump worshippers will be complaining, oh, God, you're going to the Supreme Court. But there's other avenues how to counter sanctuary cities. It's not being a racist or going after someone on their ethnic background, okay? It's called ethics. And many of you folks out there can't comprehend that word. Well, I don't give a damn what you think. Regards to all white boys, the same surname as mine, if they come in here illegally. So, yes, talking about, standing on blood. Yep, all inherited globally. Just do your homework, study your history, then we'll talk. And of course, the whole 3D design of plastic guns, and some people in the Senate having a cow like Bill Nelson. I called him off. I called him out on it. Let him know he's not more. He's a freedom hater, hates the Bill of Rights, and wants everyone to be his. Wants to be all of us to be his little children. Forget it. I don't buy it. I don't support him, and I am not pleased with the habitual screw up when it comes to protecting our freedoms, which he don't want to do. What he wants to do is give you rundown, stagnant, one-dimensional rhetoric that people still believe he's always legit. Well, that's a real shame because nothing more than a career politician. You know how you solve that, my friends? You repeal the 17th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Because originally, they're considered to be the ambassadors of the state. And they can be recalled from that state at any time. Not this election ordeal. Alright? That's why if the president, if the vice president can't be acting president, the House Speaker of the House will be the acting president. It's how our U.S. Constitution was originally documented. But everyone goes, oh, but that's not as undemocratic. We're a democracy. Show to me in that document about a democracy. There's no way, no how, ever been printed on there. Okay? It's one of those things, my friends, you gotta look at. Don't listen to the clowns that claim to be experts. You gotta do your own research and share it with others. I know I'm ranting a little bit, but that's okay. First off, speaking of Q-Aholics, Anonymous, and all that, I check out this one site called Government Rag, an educational alternative news source. It came out yesterday, to be exact. And it says here, Q-Aholics, Anonymous Club supporting overthrow of the government of the United States. Despite reality, Quran followers stand down and trust the plan. And this was written by Jack Mullen, to be exact. Yeah, it came out. It came out yesterday. Future history I see here, but I'll bust his chops later. Like it says here, a conspiracy theory can't be counted as such in its efforts to explain some events practiced by reference to the machinations of powerful people who have also managed to conceal their role. Cass Sunstein. Conspiracy theory. I remember Cass Sunstein. I know people have more fear of this person. Using all this rhetoric, we're gonna take your guns, this and that. He's not even man enough to do it without police assistance. Yeah, a bunch of bobbleheads. As I call them, Scumstein. People laugh. Why? Because you figure it out. His rhetoric is self-explanatory. So yeah, so we're gonna let's begin here, okay? We'll check this. See, we have to say, right? All right. So this is how is what it has to say here, and I know I'm repeating myself. The QAnon phenomenon is devious and dangerous psychological deception, which works to identify and collect the energies and actionable assets, emotions of the American patriots, who have traditionally opposed and pushed back against the erosion of liberties and rights formerly enshrined and protected by the Constitution of the United States of America. For the United States of America. For a takeover and a takedown of the United States to be effective, it must eliminate the U.S. Constitution, the highest law of the land. The Constitution for the United States of America is unique and the only one of its kind, naming citizens as sovereigns and with articles limiting powers of government and only to enumerated functions, reserving all other rights and actions of the sovereigns, the states, and the people. Some people call, oh, if you're a sovereign, you're a terrorist. See, those Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemimas want to manipulate it. So, any questions, re-examine it. The United States Constitution provides limitations on judicial power as well on that of the executive and legislative branches, and its only legitimate power comes by the consent of the governed, not the rule of the majority. Right, democracy. In constitutional law, man's rights come from God. not the Constitution, which is only an instrument for reserving the people. The Q-Aholics Anonymous Club is a metaphor I created for the hundreds of thousands of followers and hundreds of interpreters who make up the patriots being deceived and mocked by a QAnon psyop, because these followers who are the patriots mentioned by Q as behind the scenes supposedly supporting Trump and his insider good guys as they drain the swamp. QAnon psychological operation is a working model of Cass Sunstein's call for connective infiltration of the group that produced conspiracy theories. Sunstein, former Obama administrator of the White House, Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, and a Jewish law professor, wrote a paper in 2008 called Conspiracy Theories. In paper, Sunstein quickly discredited himself and exposed the true intent of it in the first several paragraphs, labeling those who believe the 9/11 attacks were carried out not by Al-Qaeda, but by Israel or the United States as dangerous, saying those who subscribe to conspiracy theories may create serious risk, and including risk of violence. Violence against audacious state corruption, given that we now know the attacks of 9/11, in fact, done by operatives of Israel with support from the key departments of the United States government. We can see the position and purpose of the Sunstein paper was to use propaganda to support and insulate the establishment, including Israel and the United States government, against exposure of their manifold and horrendous crimes. Sunstein, under the guise of pseudo-intellectualism, would go on to create rhetoric which could be considered a call for government action to curtain dangerous conspiracy theories. That's right, Cass Scumstein, a profound gino, a Jew in name only. We suggest a role for government efforts and agents in introducing such diversity. Governments and their allies might enter chat rooms, online social networks, or even real space groups and attempt to undermine prolocating conspiracy theories by raising doubts about their factual premises. Casual of implications for political action. In one variant, government agents would openly proclaim or at least make no effort to conceal their institutional affiliations. Who and what is a QAnon psychological operation? According to embattled New Zealand journalist Susie Dawson, I refute to hashtag QAnon today as a Pied Piper operation. Which I meant by this is that the operation exists to round up people that are otherwise dangerous to the deep state because they are generally opposed to it, usurp time and attention, and trick them into serving its aims. Dawson explained how QAnon used the standard psyop tactics for establishing credibility and then implementing gamification and spirituality to suck followers into an energized cultish mentality which leaves them susceptible to suggestion, manipulation, and direction. Even more disturbing, the QAnon psyop attempts to create a new political reality, a Q alternative universe where known liars, criminals, and the New World Order operatives are given new stories as in the background heroes working to rid the nation of the great evils such as the Federal Reserve. Liars and criminals like Obama, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch, and arch enemy of the patriot nationalist Hillary Clinton. And the Q reality followers are swallowing down the story that 9/11 complicit former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani is working with Trump and the good guys. Patriots, the Q crew, to take out the bad guys, also working to rid the world of the terrible deep state is world heads of state, including Putin, Xi Jinping, and Benjamin Netanyahu, as QAnon reminds the flockus, trust the plan. Interesting there, right? Rudy Giuliani. He's such a great man. Please, that guy's a clown. I can tell you this. I remember a while back, December 9th, 2007, a bunch of us were protesting against him at the Universal Inn, Holiday Inn, by across the street from University of Miami. And I can say they spot me pretty damn quick because I had my American flag wearing my Tin Response Team shirt, and start calling him and his followers out when the limousine came over, he walked out of the lobby and someone yelled the rat came out of his hole. He had that rat look of disgust. And of course, a person like myself asked him a question that you were at the NRA Gala in Washington, D.C., and as mayor, why you never taking the initiative on repealing the Sullivan Law of 1911, which if you own an unregistered handgun in the state of New York, because you mainly focus on the city itself, was considered a crime. And it actually went after blacks, Italians, and the Jews. He didn't want to answer it. So I proceeded by saying, I'm not saying it's out of malice, but in ungood faith. And sorry to hear about you don't want to answer my question, so do have a very pleasant Sunday. Well, I remember he had another speech a couple months later at FIU. They spotted me instantaneously, and they had this young man go, "Sir, you're not allowed to be in here," which I was flattered because I didn't want to hear his garbage anyway. But I can't condemn the kid's only the messenger. Never shoot the messenger, okay, friends? All right. As enough ranting about Giuliani, I'll continue on here. Since the phenomenon began, the posts of anonymous Q have engaged in construction of a parallel reality. Robert Mueller is actually investigating Hillary and Bill Clinton. Several other high-profile corrupt Democrats will soon be shipped off to Guantanamo Bay. Swamp monster John Bolton is actually cleaning up Washington, and Julian Assange Wikileaks has been rescued from the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Interesting about John Bolton. See, some more comical information here. Yeah, Iran is next. While QAnon crowd struggles with why missiles were launched on Syria, since Trump campaigned on ending the wars in the Middle East, they are going to have to trust the plan when it comes to attacking Iran, Israel's arch enemy and the last nation state on Wesley Clark's list states to be attacked in the Middle East, according to QAnon. And that was from Democracy Now!, by the way. And I'm not a big fan of Wesley Clark either, okay? But I'm glad he brought that out. And it tells you all right here about Anonymous, what's going to be next, all that good stuff. So yeah, you get that, you folks. You can check this out about Iran's next. So it says here, QAnon crowd seems unfazed as the greater Israel plan moves forward, unfettered by promises of eliminating the deep state, stopping the wars, and bringing the troops home. Q promises a Veterans Day remember November 11, 2018. This the day the Constitution dies. It says here, a parade will never be forgotten. Ask yourself why. God bless our men and women in uniform. We will never forget. It's from QAnon. Is QAnon grooming his following to support the overthrow U.S. system of government? Recently, beginning in May 2018, QAnon began producing posts containing parts of the Declaration of Independence. His most recent post repeats the Declaration of Independence again on July 25th and once more on June 30th, prompting many Q prognosticators to claim a second American Revolution is on the way. I heard one Q interpreter say the post meant the current American government will be overthrown or to clean out the bad guys and make possible the reconstruction of a new limited republic. The same people are anticipating because Trump has portrayed of Andrew Jackson in his office at the White House. The current central banking system is to be removed and a new gold-backed currency will be replaced with current unbacked debt-based fiat currency. I think, however, it is possible QAnon might actually be enlisting support for a takedown of the U.S. constitutional form of government with the approval and not a fight, which would result in the final chapter of the Zionist communist war against America if American alternative media and the possibly millions of people mesmerized by a code dropping of QAnon support the destruction of the United States constitutional form of government to the Zeocom empire has won, and the USA will never return again, or as Alex Jones used to say, it's Katie bar the door. Remember, it's Zionists and their doppelgangers, communist Zeocoms, which are responsible for the massive push to disarm Americans, including the horrors of the fabricated shootings like the one at Sandy Hook and Parkland High School for proposing further legislation limiting gun ownership. And it's interesting about the Parkland shooting because there are people have died. All right, however, how everything was laid out. That's what they say. It was you can say as a form of fabrication. They stood down, didn't do a damn thing. And remember, Sheriff Scott Israel of Broward County is a member of Homeland Security. Major conflict of interest. Look it up on his bio. All right? And same thing with Joe Lombardo from Las Vegas. And I will continue on here. History will attest governments and tyrants disarm people before turning guns on them. There's no such thing as a gun-free zone. Without the moral authority of the United States Constitution, people will have no appeal to law for protection or permission to defend themselves against the enemy, which will immediately disarm and purge dissenters, an enemy with experience destroying powerful European civilizations. You could add March for Our Lives as a very good, Thomas Acavera Stewart, I hope I pronounced his name right, Acavera Stewart, said the best, March for Our Lives. Yes, CA Corporation. And actually too, they're not-for-profit, they're from Encino, California, okay? So it's not grassroots movement. Totally fraud, funded, politically funded, etc. So as you may see, some of these people are being hired, not inspired. Big difference. The enemy of mankind has explained in hundreds of papers and speeches its plan to destroy the present world order and bring in a new world order. A new paradigm devoid of nation states, allowing no religions, and be populated by brown people, the product of racial blending and genocide of the white race. It's part, you could say, it's part of the eugenics program. It's just a domino effect when you really look at it in a bigger, deeper matter. The enemy is a religious cult that invented a protocol for destroying civilizations, cultures, and the very essence of the people, their race, using the treacherous theft of debt, base currencies, and the superstitious of the stolen wealth. The Zeocoms have been able to 1. Infiltrate and purchase most forms of public media, 2. Gain access to educational institutions and influence or create curriculum, 3. Purchase and blackmail nearly all members of Congress at the federal level and necessary at state level. That's been happening right now, so you folks got to do your homework on this. 4. Take control of state militaries, creating powerful mercenary armies of former nation-state military. 5. Overrun key court positions with purchase and compromise operatives, especially judges. 6. Purchase the most of the top 100 corporations for purpose of production control, including food and medicine. 7. Creating or purchasing all viable social media. 8. Tenacious and fastidious use of censorship. You've been seeing that in social media sites, a la Facebook and Twitter. 9. Setting themselves up as authorities on history, medicine, psychology, science, technology, banking, and economics for purposes of gatekeeping information or actual falsification of information. 10. Rigging and controlling voting, candidate selection, and candidate access to media. Interesting there. Remember, elected, not selected. Selected, not elected. A good song too by Killing Joke. They've been around for years. They did a song a while back called "Corporate Elect." Very anti-New World Order song, by the way. So yeah, we're on the same page. Don't be surprised. All right. With these accomplishments in this group of people, now can project itself as a powerful force more than any other nation on Earth. I'm getting the hiccups here. How is it amazing is that a Q can tell the world what's about to happen to the next deep state, but the deep state take no action against Q. In reality, however, Trump is complicit or possesses knowledge of a false flag school shootings like the fake Sandy Hook shootings. The 9/11 cover-up saying it was aware of the 5 dancing Muslims when it was dancing Israelis seen cheering as the WCT fell. And actually the New York police officer talked about that on American Free Press. Dancing Israelis on American Free Press. Look it up. It's a real good interview. And the endless NSA fraud, NASA fraud, including the fake moon landings and the ISS space hoax. Further, Trump is actively advancing the Israeli agenda of the Middle East balkanization and subsequent redefining of national boundaries, while naming Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and even scripted for purpose of creating Greater Israel and facilitating World War III. New World Order 101. And I remember, even a lot of his speeches at AIPAC, I am pro-Israel. And everyone's like, yay! Everyone's applauding, and everyone's worried about the Russian collision. Oh, I drank the Kool-Aid. It's all the Russians' fault. Blah, 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 blah. You know? Come on. Give me a break. Pay attention. Finally, a note about the fallacy of a gold standard. QAnon followers are intrigued by Donald Trump's portrayal of Andrew Jackson hanging over his desk. Much chatter is made of the belief Trump's displayed hero. Jackson really a special message to those who can decode his saying. The days of the central bank are numbered. To be sure, central banks are the bane of humanity, which enslaves with monopolies created and enforced, requiring use of debt-based, interest-requiring currencies, according to Catherine Latch of the Monetary Network Alliance. Interest income and cost of special level cost, a redistribution of wealth from 80% of the population to the wealthiest 10%. In fact, the primary tool of mankind's enslavement with this energy is forcibly used to fund and support the cancerous growth of a prison planet. It is the magic of debt currency. It is legitimizer the central banking system. Central banking and the issuance of law-enforced debt-based currencies is an institutionalized financial enslavement and wealth transferring industry. The wealth of currency holders and users transferred to nameless bankers. The debt-based currencies rely on intricacies of concealed usury, which deceitfully creates interest requirements for each unit of currency printed into existence. Historically, the swindle of debt-based currency was made more civilized and less transparent when bankers introduced the idea of a gold-backed unit of currency. In essence, the scam attached itself to the metal, historically considered money for as long as mankind has known about gold. This attachment is proclaimed good for the value of the certificate of unpaid debt. Called the dollar in America, it is explained that each unit of currency is valued at a certain weight of gold. This attachment has numerous advantages for the bankers because it ensures gold will not appear as a competitive currency, while the racket is in operation and is guaranteed over the long term of gold banking. Eventually this will end. The bulk supply of gold in the monetary system will eventually flow toward the banks in the form of interest payments made for gold-backed currency units. This sleight of hand also ensures gold will be in short supply toward the plan of end our life for the debt-based unit of currency. As a result of gold being absorbed as interest payments, especially as supply of currency increases, credit shortages can be used to facilitate large-scale transfers of wealth via high interest rates and a mortgage collateral forfeitures, which transfer real assets to gold-holding bankers. The gold banking of currency is another form of bank control of an unnatural monetary system. It may be remembered the underlying meaning of the Frank Baum's 1900 story entitled The Wizard of Oz was an allegory explaining how the yellow brick road gold would lead the silver Dorothy to the Emerald City, greenbacks, and the wicked wizard who came out, who could make all the things right again. This is considered to be a story of how the banking panics of the late 19th century would have been reduced if silver could have also backed the dollar. Silver is an abundant supply, while gold has been carried away by wealthy converters of dollars into gold and then transferred overseas. An interesting movie explaining underlying symbolism and bomb stories can be seen here. Yeah, I've heard, and very interesting indeed about the whole Federal Reserve System in that book, in that novel. Suffice is to say, in this short introduction, gold is not an acceptable form of backing money. It is a ruse always rolled as a safe and sound alternative, just as a central banking debt-based currency has gone bust, destroying the wealth held in the denominated currency. Lore the gold backing is used to bring skeptics back to the idea central banking the debt currency can be safe and unstable, but in the end it becomes another tool to transfer via usury from currency users to the bankers issuing the currency. In the final days of a debt-based currency skyrocketing Interest payments fuel inflation, which liberates the currency's purchasing power, and the wealth transfer is complete, and the new currency must be introduced. So instead of doing like a little Ponzi scheme, right? Using this scheme, gold is eventually transferred to wealthy bankers as governments buy gold for purposes of backing currency, and bankers print money for its removal, while interest rates and credit crises are played for marketing, slamming, and profit-making. Credit crisis, stock market crashes, etc. So you'll one side will blame the Democrats, the other side will blame the Republicans. You see what's going on here, my friends? Pay attention. The real story of rational money. Alert. Nothing need back a real currency. In fact, some of the most successful currency in modern history has been created with no back at all, accepted by the legitimacy, honesty, and moral authority of the issuer. Examples of non-debt-based currencies are also linked with the creators being assassinated, or worse, nations bombed relentlessly as millions of people die. Abraham Lincoln refused to borrow banker debt currency and created a debt-free greenback, the most successful currency in American history. Abe was murdered within 4 years of his invention. Adolf Hitler, the NSDAP, removed Zionist-controlled debt-based currency and created a German miracle using the debt-free Reichsmark, which is only a mark worth of work of production for every mark created. According to historians, the Reichsmark proved sound. It worked. It was less than 10 years. Germany became easily the most powerful state in Europe. It worked so magically and magnificently that it sounded the death knell of the entire Zionist Jewish money system. Interesting about that, because they're right, because it did happen. If you study the fall of the Reichsmark, when the banksters were running it, they used fiat money within 6 years. Boom, it became bust. And that's how he got into power. So that's how he got into power. So that's the whole thing you gotta look at. I'm not a big Lincoln supporter myself, but they did try to use the fiat money, and of course the banks just tried to screw him, so he went to the greenbacks. So like I said, I'm not a big Lincoln supporter, but that area there, he was spot on. So I'll be very fair on that aspect of Lincoln. Finally, let us not forget John F. Kennedy, who created a new currency with Executive Order 11,110, which created United States notes and were issued as an interest-free and debt-free currency backed by silver reserves in the U.S. Treasury. Silver certificates. It was not very long after JFK was assassinated, no more silverback certificates were ever created. Of course, Lyndon B. Johnson pulled down his pants to the banksters. That's why he was a bankster's butt boy. Respect the dead? Huh. I'll tell you one thing. His legacy, I spit on it. I'm sorry. That's how I feel about these people. Not hatred, but principle. Leaving gold and silver and other valuables unattached to a currency, especially a debt-free based currency, means that it can be purchased as store of wealth, and the banking system cannot steal it in the form of interest payments and collateral redemption. So when QAnon predicts a new gold-backed currency would be sound money, he is arguing to create a next banking swindle currency and to continue the tradition of enslaving mankind to interest payments, nothing and nothing for nothing at all. The banksters are clever snakes. There's a game is always repeated. Blow up one currency, steal all the wealth, while enslaving the people to interest payments and long-term mortgages, death contracts, and then roll out again like a new pig with bright red lipstick. And he's absolutely correct. And one person made a statement here. You done again, Jack. Stare down that fastball and gave it a right over the fence. I can't tell you how discouraging I have become with the Trump tards and the whole freaking Q psyop. Thanks again for doing your part in exposing the lies. And of course, we're here, General Smedley Butler shouted as loud as he could, the bankers are masters of psychological warfare. Absolutely. You should get that book, War is a Racket. Fantastic. And now I gotta give him credit. I'm glad I narrated this article for you folks, because everyone has the right to know what the hell is really going on. I'm not giving you any bobblehead rhetoric, just something to think about. There's some historical merits in here as well, and I gave you my other side, my pros and cons, even with Lincoln, out of fairness, because that's how I am. War, every war is a bankster's war. Remember that. Stop trusting the government. Don't worship these individuals as your Lord and Saviors. Biggest mistake. And both sides of the paradigm has done it. Both sides of the party. Whether Democrat, Republican, they're both the same. The Mickey Mouse Club. Hey, well, Barack Obama spoke in Kenya saying that, yeah, well, the first sitting president, that was from Kenya. And I'm worried, how come people not doing an uproar? And someone's defending me, oh, well, Ted Cruz is from Canada and his wife was American, that's okay. No, it's not. Don't listen to these dinkleberries on TV or listen to reading these pathetic one-dimensional websites. You gotta go further than that. So, that's how you gotta look at the world, my friends. You don't trust these people, period. They want you to think you're numbers. Hell no. We're freedom of and sovereign thinking individuals. I'm not talking about the people of the United States. As a republic, not a federal corporation. To the rest of the world as well, because we're all being played one way or the other. Okay? That's one of those areas that you gotta look at. Oh, that didn't affect my country. Look, it's a domino effect. That's what the Club of Rome, the One World Order is about. And the deep state, I don't know who's actually running the show. I don't know who the oligarchs are. But we know the pawns, the bishops, the knights, at the least. So Jack Mullen, thank you for putting this out. It's an honor to narrate it. So, we just got to be a little bit mellowed here. Woo! Alright, so next one here actually came from Sign of the Times, SOTT.net. Came out yesterday, midnight UTC time. It says here, working class hero Tommy Robinson serving Israel's Yinon plan for Europe. What does it say? What do you have to say about this? This is by Navid Nazar, Fort Russ News. Let's get straight to the point before we belabor the ins and outs of the Tommy Robinson story and what it all means. Israel and has been supporting just about every single far-right movement in Europe who will accept its support in exchange for supporting Israel against radical Islam in the Middle East. It has created for itself any movement, the phrase Defense League in it. This includes Tommy Robinson, the former comrade of the EDL, English Defense League. Israel is doing three things following the basic problem reaction solution formula. First of all, their influence should neither be overestimated nor underestimated. There's a strategy of tension play here that does not necessarily revolve around Israel, but also revolves around the U.S., which is actually at odds with the EU. But Israel is undoubtedly gaming this whole thing. Their goal is to create a greater Israel that spells out in the Yinon plan, FRN and CSS's own Jacques Flores detailed analysis of the probability that Israel, especially under Likud rule, who have always championed similar, is a good start in order to understand it. 1. Israel helping in creating the problem, supported for pro-American policies of European governments, trying them neatly with a general human rights campaign that also includes the nominally inoffensive LGBT crowd, but also the problematically normalized pedophilia and transhumanist crowd. Memes like open bars for Israel underscored Israel's hypocrisy in having previously supported open bar politics for Europe, which being one of the most racist anti-African countries in the world, paralleling the U.S. installed TNE system in Libya in terms of anti-black brutality and racism. Yes, part of the Club of Rome propaganda machine, right? Israel's global backers, incidentally, the main Western banking houses, continue to support an open borders policy for Europe. The left was an instrument used to publicly push this through. But the secret hand of various cheap labor, i.e. migrants, seeking corporations whose production or services tied to European soil has always been a major factor. Oh, and by the way, the last part is why and large working class heroes like Tommy Robinson despise the left in its present incarnation. 70 years ago, someone like Robinson could have been effective, rebel-rousing Labor Party militant. Now Israel is gaming, and the plain reaction to this now support Islamophobia in Europe. I use that term with a lot of reluctance, since enough of what is now called Islamophobia is actually simply called for a more popular and more sane policy on questions revolving around migration, which invariably affect law, culture, language, and issues of labor. Open borders is not in the interest of most Europeans and is also unpopular in most of Europe. It is also not in the interest of the majority of people in the Middle East for reasons for brain drain and the like. There is therefore an undemocratic, nay, anti-democratic initiative. Either way you score it. At the same time, Islamophobia is a real thing, and the most injurious of its consequences will not be any policy adapted inside of Europe, but about what European armies, if the term armies will still make sense in 5 years, will be compelled to do in the Middle East. 3. The solution Israel wants, having stoked Islamophobic reactionaries to the point curdled madness, is to popularize a general EU intervention, as the French indicated a desire to do in the Middle East, as well as 11. At first, in particular, this global against Islam is supposed to get Western countries to fight Israel's wars for it, to see the Suez Canal in Israel's hands, as well as the most oil fields in Iraq and the Euphrates River, the Tigris, even access to the Persian Gulf would be a real bonus. But why not shoot for the stars? So with this understanding, we can get into particulars of Robinson and the general issue of free speech. By now, not only has seemingly everyone heard of what happened to Tommy Robinson, they also have a visceral reaction to his arrest, imprisonment, and sentence, based almost completely on what their already established opinion of him was before and the rest, or what their opinion is on the Muslim question, whether strictly in the UK or more broadly across Western Europe or even across the entire West. The entirety of the West left in the West, along with the immigrant Muslim community, applauded the whole affair from the arrest to the sentence to the gag order on the media. This was lifted only 3 days ago for reasons having to do with hate speech, hate mongers, and Islamophobia, and so forth and so on. And virtually the entirety of the right deemed to Robinson to be a free speech martyr and a hero in the fight after creeping Islamization and such a hero law. And it's interesting about it, remember, a lot of these nations that were Islamic, that were like both the Islamic majority and ones that were like Muslims, I would say Muammar Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, and al-Bashir Assad. They were secular nations, and de facto, I don't know about Libya, but they're secular run nations. They're Muslims, and they're against Sharia law. So remember that, friends. Try not to combine Islam with all of Sharia law. All right, that's like ridiculous. People tell me I should learn about Islam, which I've been reading a good amount of it, but don't tell me I don't have a damn clue. I'm sorry. I find it totally absurd. There's a helicopter above me. But there's right back. All right, so we'll continue on here. There's actual much more to the story as Aslan Shabazz, someone else has fallen afoul of the British state in his speech codes embedded with almost non-existent media attention. Notes. Earlier this year, we saw Robinson recycle himself as a free speech advocate, notably in the Marcus Meacham, a.k.a. Court Dankula trial, despite the fact that I was charged in Dankula found guilty of the same law. Robinson has never breathed a word about my case. Why is this? A little selective, right? Absolutely. I will say this. Why Robinson persuaded to attend the Leeds hearing by most of his adherent Zionist supporters, including the Tel Aviv regime's deputy social media advisor. There is even a demonstration planned tonight for 6 p.m. outside the British Embassy, also in Tel Aviv. Was Robinson kerfuffle a deliberate measure to deflect attention away from the verdict in my trial, which is most definitely a grave threat to freedom of speech in the UK? Another important note. To note, as cited in last week's Metro report, the Jewish activists who provoked a brawl outside my hearing were all staunch supporters of Robinson. See above. So you're going to have infiltrators in these movements. Surely pro-Israel fans and the likes of the Robinson can't have it both ways. Free speech is free speech, no exceptions. I agree completely. That's why I always say I'm pro-free speech. Even with Tommy Robinson, well, like I told people too, I got to look at him a lot more, which I'm glad I did. But like I said, if I was defending Tommy Robinson's free speech, I'll support David Dukes as well. And all these quacks are out there. As long as you don't harass or try to harass people or violate their space. To be clear, Shamaz is accused of Holocaust denial in a song she made for YouTube. A judge ruled it wasn't parody even if the product was intended to be funny. But her quote reflects that some of the major split in the European far right. But what she points out is interesting at the same time. The Dan Kola case and her own revolve around YouTube comedy being prosecuted as hate speech. Robinson's public speeches have been tagged as hate speech, but objectively pro-Saudi Muslim cleric and imam of the Salafist variety in operating in Europe somehow magically avoid being tagged as hate mongers. John Gaunt's take is also well worth a read. Tommy knows all about contempt of court, and he was found guilty of that offense in the Canterbury last year. I remember at the time asking him and the people who were backing him if he understood the law and that he could be prejudicing that trial, and also telling him that he should wait until the verdict come in before commenting. Yeah, those damn helicopters. Till I get my own place, right? I'm an urban camper, so bear with me there, my friends. All right, let me see here. Look, I fully understand his frustration and share his followers' belief that the mainstream press, judiciary, and the police have not taken the Pakistani Muslim rape gang seriously enough. I also agree with the feeling within largely working-class communities that Muslim criminals are being treated with politically correct kids' gloves. I believe in one law for all, which is why I'm against any form of Shahira in the UK. I know that all this is fueled Tommy last week, but I'm afraid it was a class case of emotion overriding the intellect. Now, he has a good point there. I also have to ask this question. If Tommy's so concerned about victims, why did he do a Facebook live stream outside the court, including filming defendants, which could have jeopardized the whole trial and denied victims justice? I'm afraid there is no two ways about it. It is time for protests are when the verdicts come in and there are no reporting restrictions, not before. Tommy Robinson is a casual English hooligan at heart. He isn't someone who has demonstrated any real interest, let alone proficiency on the subject of geopolitics or international law. As a working class guy who comes out of EDL or English Defense League, a project created effectively by some wing of what amounts to Israel's vast foreign ministry, for the lack of a better term, it's hard to hold him to account for issues clearly beyond his area of concern or basic knowledge. To be blunt, if the English government were as interested in the well-being of the English as Robinson seems to be, and if the English government and many charter corporations operating globally as an imperialist extractor of third world labor and resources were as disinterested in the world at large as Robinson actually is, the world will be just as much of a better place. From the perspective of that casual hooligan, anti-Shahira or anti-gang rape activist, if Israel wants to jump in for its own reason and support Islamophobia in Europe, this is based in something essential to Israel. This is not based in some essential love that Tommy Robinson has for Israel. There are no governmental institutions or otherwise civil society organizations which are both fair to the rights of legitimate refugees and indigenous Englishmen, which someone like Robinson can turn to. Israel is up to something nefarious, to be sure, and Robinson operating somewhere the south of 115 on the IQ is something like a pawn in some grand plan. But Robinson is not the problem. He has been effective and sensationalist propagandist who speaks to real issues affecting real people. These certainly need to be a conversation about what the hell is happening, what is all about what all is happening in the world, and supporters of Robinson. Even Robinson himself needs to be part of the conversation. Failing to have as broad conversation as possible, and instead rubbishing each other as fascists or cultural Marxists, Islamophobes, rape gang apologists, etc., help bourgeois Jewish politicians exploit hot-button issues, but doesn't lead the kind of solution that only come through the process that's broad and open as possible. Robinson's support by Israel is something of which people with a better understanding of the world at large are right to be turned off by. But failing to understand the lived experiences of Robinson and his indigenous English supporters is a grave sinner. It feels that in the year 2018 we're in a position to use the phrase indigenous Europeans, indigenous Englishmen, but here we are. There's a Islamic Ray Guys, the EDL anthem. And it says here, Barbara Mackenzie's piece also deserves to be read in full. She lays out all the facts and the various narratives surrounding the case. What stood out for me was this. Tommy Robinson is an activist heavily involved in exposing the Muslim grooming gangs in Britain. He also campaigns against extremist Islam, specifically violence, intimidation, and support for terrorism by extremist Islamic groups, and the double standards relating to the treatment of Muslims versus non-Muslims. He is a strong supporter of the State of Israel, although he insists that he is only targeting extremists he conflates or he is seen to conflate all Muslims by using terms so freely, while many of those involved in grooming gangs have a different history to those responsible for terrorism. Robinson's concerns are seen as valid by a large section of England. Even those who do not like his style, he has been termed a working class hero. He also described as a racist and thug, also a fraudster, Israeli agent, globalist. Tommy Robinson was arrested while live streaming outside Leeds Crown Court. This is the most common clip of his arrest. You can see it for yourselves. The event on Friday appeared to be as follows. Tommy Robinson was live streaming into a cell phone outside the court in Leeds, where a group of men were being tried for raping underage girls. They were allegedly part of a grooming gang. Robinson was already serving a suspended sentence of 3 months. Robinson is left undisturbed by the police while he films and talks onto his phone. However, at a certain point, the judge looks out the window, and a few minutes later, police arrest him on suspicion of breach of the peace. Inside the courthouse, the charge is changed to contempt of court. Within a few hours, Robinson's convicted and sentenced to 13 months in prison. And of course, we're all doing this on the slaughter in Gaza continues unabated to nearly absolute silence of the vast majority of the international community and its media. One, in my opinion, there are 4 major takeaways from this incident. You know what? And I'll be right back, so stay tuned. Alright, I'm back. I had to get something to drink here. So, we'll continue on. In my opinion, there are 4 major takeaways from this incident. 1, Tommy Robinson is objectively an Israeli asset, but is concerned chiefly with England and the future of the English. He's within the rights to do so. He's supported by international law, the UN founding charter, numerous treaties, as well as the right of any movement for national self-determination of the peoples. He does not call for an even greater Great Britain. There is no irredentism or national chauvinism in Robinson's own line. Palestine is not his issue. He is not obligated to make it his issue. At this point, he's probably said any number of ridiculous, but to be clear, historically and factually irrelevant claims about Palestine is satiate to the Israelis. Fate of Palestine was never in the hands of any Robinson. It never will be. Israel is a convenient supporter for him. The Israel-Palestine question is clearly and obviously not his real subject of concern. That Israel has gotten him to mutter this or that about affairs outside of England and Europe is a result of Israel's interests, not Robinson's as such. but lumping him and his supporters in some of the bastard deplorables is going to work as well for his detractors as did for Hillary Clinton. 2. No one, at least of all Muslims of any stripe, should be cheering the British state's assault against him or against any like-minded individuals. The secret arrest and gag orders surrounding his instantaneous one-day trial conviction are precisely the sort of legal realities that many migrants to Europe claim to try to escape. The state works in funny ways as an agenda clearly beyond the interest of its subjects. The state or its corporate backers use Group A's advocacy against Group B only to become the outcome of that advocacy against Group and when the time comes. 3. If the Muslim community in Britain doesn't want individuals like Tommy Robinson to be the public eye, they need to do a better job of publicly addressing the real pathological issues that infest the community, instead of pretending that they don't exist or the fabrication of Islamophobes, or worst of all, demand the British state do everything it can to shut down such people up. Salafi Wahhabi extremism, grooming pedophile gangs, rampant criminality all need to be addressed in a substantive and public way. Self-pity, pointing the finger in another direction, and seeking to criminalize people within or without the community who speaks up about these issues is going to cut it anymore. It isn't going to cut it anymore. So everyone's got to look at the bigger picture instead of pointing the finger of these witch hunting fetishes. People are real good at that. Look what happened in 9/11, for an example. They all blame it on the Muslim community, extremists. But hey, I never bought that story from the very beginning. Especially when they say they attacked us on 9/11 because of our freedoms. That's from the fruitcake himself, Rudy Giuliani. One moment here. Thank you. 4. Conflating the crimes of the British Empire its more recent role in the creation of instability and poverty in the MENA region with the English people is a serious mistake. Core, periphery, or 3 words, theory and discourse only go so far and can fail to understand the internal class of dynamics of a given society. Western capitals have flourished at the expense of the global East and global South, but any quick and simple audit of wealth disparity and living conditions in England paints a pretty harrowing Dickinson picture. If your eyes work, you'll see that England's big cover-up is a big embarrassment, is in that in terms of actual quality of life. England is for its majority something bordering a banana republic. Thatcherism never went away. Wealth distribution problems in England predated Thatcher. Poverty in England has been so rampant for centuries, and the English historically have fled to the continents of Australia and North America to escape it. European governments aren't simply being pushed by left-wing activists to adopt open border policies. What's on top of this is that the backers of both are using a lot of AstroTurf, a corporate agenda of the former. You gotta give that to him, man. David Nasser. Interesting man. Interesting writer. He's a Iranian-American geopolitical analyst. He has got good merit on this article. So, like I said, look at things a lot broader what's being portrayed. And everyone get caught up on face value, but don't want to take the initiative of observing the fine print. That's the downfall when it comes to these movements, battles, etc. You have to always see things a lot more complex. Like it or not, that's just how the world works. They don't want to know. No one wants to know about this. They want to have us still manifest under the thumb of Eric Benace's playbook propaganda. So one of these things you gotta see is when the whole world knows about this, the better it will be. It may not be perfect, but we can make things better. The truth of the matter is, my friends, government in Latin is control of the mind. I've been saying this over constantly. They need us. more we need them. That's the world, how I see it. Whew. Yeah, I didn't know this episode's going to be pretty long, but hopefully folks can bear with me. Yeah, I know that for sure. But, hey, I gotta say, I'm enjoying this stuff, so to be very frank. I have to, I'm gonna definitely, subscribe to his newsletter. Pretty cool. Well, and the whole thing about this with being anti-Israel and all that, it's not hating the people there. It says you got shysters in that government as well. It's just an example. They have it in Iran also, okay? So I'm not lovey-dovey when it comes to government as a whole. I'm not supposed to trust these particular institutions or entities. You gotta put their damn feet to the fire. Keep them on their toes. But many of these individuals believe, you gotta trust them. It's like saying, I want to be a bend over Bob too, or be a yes boy. I want to be a servant to the technocratic plantation. Everyone's got to start thinking for themselves. That's the name of the game. Oh, here's a good quote of the day by Philip Dick. The true measure of a man is not his intelligence or how high he rises in this freak establishment. No, the true measure of a man is this: how quickly can he respond to the needs of others and how much of himself he can give. Very intriguing indeed. I like that stuff. So, hopefully you do as well. I'm going to be hitting something right here. I'm just going to, I'm ready to... Yay! I'm in? Yay, I'm in. Alright, cool. Alright, cool. I'll get back here. It's on the times.net or SSSOOT.net. Yeah, good site. I always like this stuff like Land Destroyer and all that too, so it's always been awesome. Alright, well, another thing about Tommy Robinson. Let's hit this one here. It came out yesterday from the Orlando Sentinel. U.S. Appeals Court rules Trump sanctuary cities order is illegal. And of course, all the Trump worshippers are going ape. It is by Shunin Tanawala from Associated Press. A divided U.S. Appeals Court on Wednesday struck down a key part of President Donald Trump's contentious effort to crack down on cities and states that limit cooperation with immigration officials, saying an executive order threatened to cut funding for sanctuary cities was unconstitutional. In a 2-1 decision, the 9th U.S. District Court of Appeals agreed with the lower court that the exceeded the president's authority. Congress alone controls spending under the U.S. Constitution. The president do not have the power to withhold funding. It approved to pursue their policy goes, the court majority said. That's Article 1, Section 7 of the U.S. Constitution. Thank you, Chris Ann Hall. I've read it myself. By its plain terms, the executive order directs the agencies of the executive branch to withhold funds appropriate by Congress in order to further the administration's policy objective of punishing cities and counties that adopt so-called sanctuary policies. Wrote Chief Judge Sidney Thomas, joined by Judge Ronald Gold, were both nominated by Democratic President Bill Clinton. The court, however, said the lower court judge went too far, then blocked enforcement of Trump's order nationwide after a lawsuit by 2 California counties, San Francisco and Santa Clara. Thomas said there wasn't enough evidence to support a nationwide ban, limited injunction to California, and sent the case back to the lower court for more arguments on whether a wider ban was warranted. Devin O'Malley, a spokesman for the U.S. Justice Department, called the ruling victory for criminal aliens in California who continue to commit crimes, knowing that the state's leadership will protect them from federal immigration officers whose job is to hold them accountable and remove them from the country. The Justice Department remains committed to the rule of law, to protecting public safety and keeping criminals, aliens off the streets, he said. The decision overall is a big win for opponents of the executive order, but Trump could try to force itself against jurisdiction of the nine outside the 9 western states covered by the Ninth Circuit, said David Levine, an expert on federal court procedures at the University of California Hastings College of Law. If they want to go after Chicago, they want to go after Denver or Philadelphia, they would not be bound by any injunction, he said. Those places would have bring their own lawsuits, and whatever happens in those cases. Trump signed an executive order in January 2017, part of a push by his administration to go after cities and states that don't work with U.S. immigration authorities. The government had also removed to withhold a particular law enforcement grant from sanctuary injunction jurisdictions and sued California over 3 laws that extended protections to people in the country illegally. The Trump administration says sanctuary cities and states allow dangerous criminals back on the street. San Francisco and other sanctuary cities saying turning local police into immigration officers erode the trust needed to get the people to report crime. The executive order directed the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to ensure that injunctions refusing to comply with particular immigration law generally are not eligible to receive U.S. grants. U.S. District Judge William Orrick in San Francisco ruled in November that the order threatened all federal funding and that the president lacked the authority to attach the new conditions to spending approved by Congress. Right, because if you read Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, it's pretty damn self-explanatory. The executive order potentially jeopardized hundreds of millions of dollars in funding San Francisco and Santa Clara counties, Orrick said, citing comments by Trump and U.S. General Attorney Jeff Sessions as evidence of the order's scope. The Trump administration said the order applied to a relatively small pot of money and already required compliance with the immigration law. When a president overreaches and tries to assert authority he doesn't have under the Constitution, that needs to be checked on that power grab. San Francisco City Attorney Dennis Herrera said in a statement Wednesday, the court did that today, which is exactly what the framers of the Constitution had in mind, checks and balances. Santa Clara Counsel James R. Williams said the decision was a victory for a key provision of the U.S. Constitution. In a colorful dissenting opinion, Ninth Circuit Judge Brian Rolfe Hernandez said that the executive order clearly says that any action by the Attorney General or Homeland Security Secretary was taken into accordance with the law. Fernandez, who nominated the Ninth Circuit by Republican President George Herbert Walker Bush, said Orrick had pushed that language aside. Hernandez called for the country's fears about the order and an imagined beast. So you got a lot of folks with different views on here, which I understand with the purse and so forth. You know, Article 1, Section 7, he went over, and President Trump went over Article 2. Okay, so, and of course you got to look at the 10th Amendment as well, because remember they tried that in other counties or other cities, and they used that case, which is, we had this case called, I don't know what to do here. Had this one case called Prince versus the United States, and I have it here. So I want to try to get everything in tuned, so get this thing going. Looks like I had it out here for a while. So there's a lot of variability. Why? Because even a person like myself, in good faith, I do oppose sanctuary cities. It's ethical, not I'm not doing ethnics. I don't know people brown skin. It doesn't matter. That's how I see it. And believe it or not, I have a family. I have a mixed batch of people. I go on here. I can talk about this all day long. All right. So I'm not gonna be doing that. And I did my own little intake on here. Cool. All right. And it's really, very intriguing indeed. I recommend folks check out Grammarly.com. Sometimes you may get rusted on your English and punctuation. Comes in handy. You can learn something. Hey, it's okay to invest in your education, better yourself. That's why I say reading's very good. You can remember. You'd be surprised what we folks can comprehend. You don't even know about it. Just boom, it's come out of the woodworks. So I always give Grammarly credit. And here's what I said about this on the Sanctuary City funding. And I wrote it down. So, sincere, to be very sincere, I boldly oppose sanctuary cities without any hesitation. However, I observe this as a 10th Amendment issue and won't be surprised if the petitioners present a case entitled Prince and Mac versus the United States. The late Judge Roll's decision was mainly upon government overreach, plus Federalist Papers number 46 by James Madison addressed this matter in saying that the federal government should never encroach on states' jurisdiction. With all due respect and in good faith, the President's executive order violates the amendment aforementioned. Solution: having the states authoring referendums of prohibiting sanctuary cities, and Texas has officially spearheaded it, plus others are following suit. My viewpoint is nothing more than ethical. Thank you very much, and that is the truth. So you can't call me a racist, anything like that, because I'll be totally acidine. All right, but it's one of those views you have to see. Because I remember when they had it in the lower courts. That's when the state of Texas spearheaded the resolution for sanctuary cities is prohibited in their state, and it went through. Boom! And I think other states have followed. Florida they had it passed in the House but failed in the Senate. Don't be surprised if it comes back again. So if it comes on states' rights, they can make that happen. So don't just go, Trump, oh my God, no, just got to do the Supreme Court. No. If your state doesn't have a resolution pertaining to prohibiting sanctuary cities, take the initiative on calling them out on it. Even if they have to go to TeknoAxe.com. Great site. They teach you all these things. And they said, as long as the states can do it, no ends, ifs, or buts. We're going to go to the federal court. Oh, it's not fair. You know what they'll say? It's the states' rights, buddy. Don't complain. So, I'm going to do one more here, and I'll be heading out. This came out, I believe it was yesterday. Yesterday? Let's find out right here. Yeah, yesterday. It was a whole fiasco about 3D printing blueprints for firearms. Oh my God, run to the hills. So, Michael Bolden from the 10th Amendment Center actually did an article on this called Unconstitutional, the Undetectable Firearms Act of 1988. On Tuesday, in response to fears from gun control advocates over 3D printed firearm blueprints becoming more widely available today, the NRA posted a tweet noting that the organization helped pass a federal gun control measure called the Undetectable Firearms Act of 1988. The legislation was passed by the federal House with a vote of 413-4, and it passed the Senate with an amendment by voice vote. The House agreed with the Senate unanimously. The act was signed into law by Ronald Reagan on November 10, 1988. It was unconstitutional from day one. And this is what the NRA has to say about this. Undetectable plastic guns have been illegal for 30 years. Federal law passed in 1988 crafted with the NRA's support, making it unlawful to manufacture, import, sell, ship, deliver, possess, transfer, or receive any undetectable arm. Well. Oh, yeah, we are ATF approved. That's why I'm real critical of the NRA in a lot of areas, too. All right, I'll continue on here. Also, Tuesday, a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order blocking the release of downloadable blueprints for 3D printed firearms. A significant part reasoning is the Undetectable Firearms Act of 1988. Guttenberg and others worry lax control of plastic guns and a public safety issue would sidestep current regulation providing criminals and terrorists with guns that cannot be flagged by metal detectors and don't have serial numbers to trace and don't require the usual background checks. See what they say? Gotta give up your liberty for security. You're gonna use all this as a fear factor. Don't you get it? Let the government put your security in the hands of the government. We will protect you. I'm not aware of any organization has successfully lobbied for and helped pass more federal gun control measures in the NRA. They backed the National Firearms Act of 1934, the NICS, the Undetectable Act of 1988, and probably a few more too. If I'm correct, they even support the 1968 Gun Control Act, okay, which the whole registration 4473 form, and even Charlton Heston, may so be free, forever free, was a man enough to admit that was a mistake. So he got a lot more vigilant when he became president. May so be forever free, okay? 3D printed guns. On May 5th, 2015, Defense Distributed made public the 3D printing files to the world's first fully 3D printable gun, the Liberator 380 single-shot pistol. The State Department immediately came down hard on Defense Distributed, and the files were taken down, but that didn't stop them from spreading. In just 2 days, there was a bit of a Streisand effect. It was downloaded more than 100,000 times, but by the time the file was moved from the Defense Distributed websites, it already appeared on Pirate Bay and other torrent sites where they are possible to erase. Just weeks after the Liberator files went online, a guy in Wisconsin took the original design and turned it into a single shot into an 8-round gun. Wow. A few weeks after that, another person printed a rifle. And now other sites like Voscad, GradCAD, to have continued to evolve the Liberator's design to share their own blueprints for 3D printable revolvers and rifles. Defense Distributed has expanded their own offerings in the last 3 years with files for others, including the 911, Beretta M9, and the Ruger 1022. Before a temporary restraining order was issued, DAFCAD made files available this week. They were downloaded more than 25,000 times before the axe was removed. Even after the restraining order, another website, CodeIsFreeSpeech.com, released similar blueprints. Just in like 2015, the genie is out of the bottle and will never be put back again. Thanks to Cody Wilson, as Defense Distributed and other heroic people are willing to stand up for their rights without federal permission, the Unconstitutional Federal Act can be rendered moot, whether the government wants it to happen or not. Is a great quote. I think of access to firearms as a fundamental human dignity, a fundamental right. Thank you, Cody Wilson, for that quote, and thank you, Michael Bolden, for putting this out. It's the name of the game, my friends. They want us to be little peasants, dumb, stagnant people. But if the government has it, it's called exceptionalism. Man, oh man, they want us all enslaved. They want to condemn people for being productive. So terrorists, criminals, could we use the members of the U.S. government in that category, including the FBI? Yeah. Entrapping political prisoners for lying. That's okay. It's exceptional. Think about that, my friends. They hate competition. Too bad. That's why this whole thing I was never bothered by it from the very beginning. Hey, we can all learn something how to design, right? So technology is the answer, my friends. Utilize it wisely. And that is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. Questions, comments, or if you say something that's interesting, whatever you do, please address your correspondence with decorum. You can hit me at all multiple mainstream media sites, including Spreaker, Facebook, and all that. Just type in Look Your Luck number 3 or the Roman numeral 3 in the search engine. You'll find me in these social media sites. In addition, you can email me at lookyourluck3@gmail.com or to your encrypted ones, lookyourluck03 at protonmail.com. If you have a Proton Mail account, that'd be awesome. All right, my friends. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.